when we're watching the news, when we hear stories of 6 million Jewish people killed during the Holocaust, it's such a large number. When you hear about 1.7 to 2 million Cambodians died, when you hear about 800,000 Rwandan people who were macheted to death in 100 days, when you hear about all these people, 120, 140 million people's worth in the last century who died from many different wars, it is hard to put a face to the family members, to the people, to the human hearts, to the dreams. And this was brought to me, I learned from this, like many other American students in America, was the introduction of the Diary of Anne Frank. And when I read that book, it made a difference in my life. And I read it and it didn't seem to me like it was history. I read the book and it felt to me like I could understand the fear. I could understand the anxiety. I could understand the sense of hiding out, of hiding yourself, of being so careful. And I could understand the pain of watching your parents worry, of watching your family members think often about each other and how you're going to keep each other safe. And then I felt the heartbreak at the separations of the Franks family one by one as they were taken from each other. And it broke my heart. I was yet then not strong enough to tell people of my story. I could not speak to people of my story. My friends, when I was growing up in America, didn't know about my story, didn't know about Cambodia. And if they asked, and many didn't, if they asked, I just said my families weren't here. And yet every Christmas holidays or school breaks, they would come back with their stories of grandparents that they spent time with or gifts that they got from their aunts and uncles. I had no stories to share. But in the stories of Anne Frank, we could share and speak of the stories that affected us all. And so for me, it was the first book that taught me about the importance of putting a human face on these larger issues of war, of tragedies, of horrors. And then when I was a little older, somebody gave me a second book that would change my life even more. And it was Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. That book blew my mind. That book taught me so much that it wasn't just our individual story that was important to share, but that we as individuals, all our stories are connected to each other. That we are connected, that what happened in the Holocaust is connected to what happened to Cambodia, to Rwanda, to Bosnia, to many different places in the world, that we are all a part of the human race. And that if we could speak our stories and vibrate each other's heartstrings, that sometimes we go through life, we live life in such a fast moving time with so many things that we think are important, that we forget that we need to pay attention to the vibrations of our heartstrings, to the importance of life. And story is the umbilical cord of what connects us to one another, what connects our human life to our humanity, what connects our hearts to our spirits. And so I think for me, it's not just the importance of sharing my story, but in doing so, I get to be connected to the larger story of our human story.